So guys, thanks so much for joining us. Little office hours, a little powwow session here. Don't know where everyone is market-wise. I know Oscar's down in Florida, and it looks like there's some other guys in Florida, Maryland, etc. So basically, the goal of this call is really to make it about you guys and questions that you guys have, answers we have for you guys. We're going to kind of start off with just a talking topic. What's going on right now in the market? I'm going to share some deals I'm doing right now and how we're still making some great money in this market. We'll do the same, and then we'll open this thing up and we'll just rock and roll. So I'll just kind of start, I guess. So long story short, you guys know the market shifting. I have a friend who I wholesale the house to, and he did all this construction work. So it was a huge rehab, and the thing went longer than expected. And he sent me a picture today on WhatsApp. A year ago, the interest rate on that property, all in, if you put 20% down, was $1,100. And now today, with the new rates, that same payment at the same price is like $2,200 or something like that. So basically the payment doubled with the interest rate, which is obviously causing, at least in the New York area, we're seeing higher days on market. So stuff isn't selling like for crazy above ask. If you price a property right, you're getting offers, but you're generally getting ask price, maybe a little bit more if it's in the right zip code, good school district. Sometimes you're getting an offer, 10K below, 5K below, but we're still seeing stuff is moving, right? Stuff is moving on the retail side. On the wholesale side, it's a lot harder to sell properties compared to what it used to be. So what we're doing is we're simply just going in and we're obviously trying to get the properties much cheaper so we can sell them for cheaper. But instead of going out, we used to put out these wholesale deals and we would price them like crazy and we'd still have multiple offers. But now what we're doing is we're pricing the properties a little bit lower than we normally would. But because of that, we're still generating the demand from our buyers. We're still getting people to like open our emails and respond. So we're just basically making these price adjustments, and that's how we're getting by. We're still getting great fees. I mean, they've definitely gone down. We're putting together a deal today in Rye, which is like right near New York City. We're buying a piece of land for $530, a straight lot, and we're selling that. Oh, sorry, we're buying it for $560, and we're wholesaling it for $630. So that's a pretty good fee there. And we got a buyer in literally one day for that thing. So I mean, solid fee. Yeah, there's still good deals going on.
I'm just curious. What's it zoned for? I'm just curious.
It's zoned for single family or two family. The one lot.
So that's a nice area, right? I assume it's multi-million-dollar home.
ARVs are $3 million there. Yeah.
Yeah. It's big. If somebody's going to pay that for land.
Yeah. It's the big leagues down there. I mean, you're building, you're going 3.5 mil, probably more like 3 now with the market. But I mean, we're still finding some success. I mean, we're not selling everything. I wish we were, but we have some dogs that we still have in our inventory. But Will, what are you seeing down in Florida? Because I know we got some Florida guys on this call.
Yeah. So up to all my Florida guys, but and everybody, I guess, with the same token. But yeah, man, look, and I'm a big proponent that inventory moves in any market, up, down, sideways, diagonally, it doesn't really matter. The only thing that adjusts is your buy box and your buying model. What I'm seeing in South Florida is there's a significant uptick so far in days on market. Inventory is sitting, right? A lot more of it is on the market, so a lot more inventory. The MLS has ticked up big time because a lot of people, you had that wave of people. What I see right now is the last wave of people, sellers that are still trying to what I call chase down the market, because now the market's going down and now they're like, oh shit, well, let me just list my property so I could get as much, but that party's over. So the guys that were listing for 400, getting 420, 430 above asking, appraisal contingencies waived, that party is over. That's over, with very, very, very few exceptions. So there's a lot of sellers that are still in the mindset of, well, let me just list it and let me see what I can get for it. And now they're adding to the pile of shit that was already in inventory. So and they're just jacking up the days on market even more. And now they're going to have to reduce. And, the other sellers that were already on market are reducing. The conversations with sellers are changing. It is changing to the degree of you can frame conversations more. Some sellers are starting to become a little bit more realistic. It's been in the news enough. It's been in the economy enough. I definitely think, and I've been saying this for weeks now, November 2nd and then November 8th with the election is going to be really the last nail in the coffin in regards to solidifying the fact that we are now living in a world of 7+% interest rates for 30-year mortgages. The last time that happened was like mid 90s, right? And it was actually higher. So in the grand scheme of things, it's really, yes, the rates are higher, but it's really not that bad. In Reaganomics in the 80s, there was 12, 13, 14% interest for homes. Granted, the standard of living was different, and the cost of living was different, and incomes were proportionate to that. But yes, on the wholesale side, it's harder to move inventory right now. There's no doubt, no question whatsoever. I'm happy that I'm in South Florida. We seem to not be getting hit as hard as, for example, a California and Arizona. I have friends in that market, and you do as well. Your bottle just like turned into a shapeshifter with the background. That's so cool.
Like magical.
But yeah, it was like X-Men or something. But anyway, and they're definitely already seeing 15, 20, 25% corrections, on their inventory. So we're not there yet. If you get to Central Florida, you can still find great deals. I've been marketing in Central Florida and Northern Florida for about 2 years now. So for me, I just kind of doubled down and tripled down up there. I'm right now, man, I'm in pipeline building mode. So like for anybody on this call, what I'm doing right now is I'm working for 3-4 months forward right now into the future. So I've talked about this before. I've been through this with COVID where shit stopped for 3-4 months. We doubled and tripled down on marketing. And then 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, we had a big pipeline of sellers that had to move, and we were there to catch them. So it's the same thing, right? Real estate's not going to stop. I'm tired of hearing these myths where, people are like, oh my God, the market's over. It's 07, 08. Oh, Jesus Christ, the sky's falling down. It's not going to happen. All right. It's certainly not going to be 07, 08. I think that economically, globally, for a second, to talk about that, shit's hitting the fan. There's a lot more stuff behind, the curtain that is actually happening right now. So I think that's going to be a very, very big opportunity for people like us and investors in general. It was about time that the market reset. Let's not kid ourselves. The last 2 years or so of this market was a fairy tale land, and everyone, I'll be the first to admit, I made more money than what I knew what to do with. And it wasn't because I was a stud or some genius. I had the infrastructure in place, and I had the fortitude to double down on marketing. But there was a lot of people that should have not been in this market that looked like studs for the last 2 years. And it wasn't because they were great. It was just the market was supporting a lot of bullshit. and
you could get away with murder in the old market. You could put a property on the market, overpay for it, and look like a genius. Especially,
dude, I remember. Listen, we moved about 127 deals last year, and I remember having conversations, my dispo manager and all that, but listening and watching the emails and the conversations with buyers. And when I started seeing that buyers were intentionally and knowingly riding the appreciation and buying with a 400K ARV, and they're like, yeah, but I'll probably be able to sell it at 430. When I started seeing that, I was like, oh shit. That's a problem waiting to happen.
Yeah.
So, it became normal to do that. So this is a very, very normal thing in the grand scheme of things for a market to do. It's about time,
100%.
We'll see where it goes. There's a lot of pent up inventory, just to talk on that. On the inventory side, there's a lot of pent up inventory with foreclosures and evictions and stuff, forbearance that people aren't really talking about. There was still 2 years. There's a shit ton of people. And it's hard to find that data, but there's a shit ton of people that are still in arrears from COVID that have not paid their mortgages. So I think you're going to see an uptick in the auction properties, REOs, right? And we'll see how they do it. Banks aren't stupid this time around. They're very, very smart, and they're going to list everything on the MLS, and they're not dumb. All right, they're not going to be giving away properties for 30 cents on the dollar. I don't see that happening. If it does, I'll be a really happy camper about it. But that's not going to happen on this time around. But yes, prices are going to correct. The market is cooled off, to say the least, and we are in a full blown recession. There's people that are arguing that still, just it baffles me because the numbers are what they are.
The data is the data.
The stock market, the stock market's teetering too, dude. They had a good week, and they're like rallying now, but the Dow's already trading at 3, 4, 5% of what it was. It's clear as day. Crypto's trading at a third of where it was. And I'm not a crypto guy, but
neither am I.
I do know how to do numbers. And from 69,000 to a peak to 20,000, that seems like 35% to me. So, I mean, things are trading where they're trading. Watches are shit now. The off market. I have a lot of friends that are. There's two things to watch in an economy. Car market is one of them, and luxury items is another. And usually, when those two, especially if they combine together, if those two start to take a shit, usually the economy follows right after. And we rode. I like watches, right? I love Rolex, and we rode watches that were supposed to be 15K retail went up to 45K for like a year and a half, which makes zero sense for a stainless steel piece. It's not even a precious metal. And now these watch, guys that I know, friends of mine that are brokers, they're like, dude, I couldn't get rid of this watch right now for 18 grand, maybe make 3-4 grand, or maybe make my money back. Right. And then cars, it's the same thing. Exotic cars went through the roof. We're having Lamborghinis trading 150 grand above retail because you couldn't get your hands on them. A buddy of mine bought a Lamborghini. It's now worth 120 grand less than what he paid for it. And it's a good thing he's got money because he it doesn't bother him. But that's a freaking big red indicator in your
That's
face.
like a house, bro. That's like a legit house. That's a house on wheels. That's a 10 mobile homes in one.
He paid 320, and if he got 220 right now, I'm sure he'd be happy. Honestly, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well,
But
with that being said, too, this is another thing. I mean, Willie and I aren't 25-year vets, but we were in this market before it was crazy. Like, we were in this thing way before 2020. And I remember when I got started in like 16, really, when you put a fix and flip on the market, it would sit for a couple weeks, and that was normal. And you'd get a couple offers here and there, and you'd sell it. And I'm seeing it's almost like just like it was in 16, 17, 18. Like, we just got so spoiled the last 2 years. And now I'm talking to a lot of my buddies. And even when I do a project, I mean, we're trying to wholesale most of our stuff now to mitigate risk. But I'm like, listen, if this thing would trade at 400 right now, let's underwrite it to say it's going to trade at 370. And if it trades at 370 and we can sell it fast because it's the cheapest inventory that's renovated, we're going to still buy the house. Like, I'm not shy. I'm not gun shy about buying flips right now. Listen, in Delaware, where we're doing a lot of business now, I'm wholesaling the stuff I can wholesale. Like, I'll give you a quick example. So I had a property. We just wholesaled it yesterday, actually. And the numbers were, I got it for 180 and sold it for 195. So it was a base hit wholesale. I'd like to make 25 plus, but this one, this guy came in right away, saw it, not sight unseen, but he made a non-contingent offer. I could have done that project myself. It needed probably 75 grand, septic, water in the crawl space, just mold, just disaster of like rehab. To do it remote, I'm like, no way. So I put it on wholesale, got a buyer, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take this profit right now. So that property will probably sell for like 299, maybe 315 after the guy puts a decent amount of work into it. And he's local. He doesn't mind. But, I'm looking at that deal. Like, I had no issue selling that thing in a down market. Like, we sold that thing in 12 hours. I put the thing on Facebook. By the next morning, the thing was gone, right? I had a full price offer, had a house the next day, same, different county in Delaware. Got it at my acquisitions guy locked it up at the house. I put it on the buyer's list. Literally within an hour, it was gone, 15K over ask. So if you price your properties right, you're still, especially this is regarding wholesaling, you're still going to get buyers. I mean, let's think about the buyer's perspective. If they're depending on wholesalers and realtors bringing them deals, that's how they make their living. If they're not going to do the marketing themselves, they rely on the wholesalers and the realtors. So, you're still going to have quote unquote hungry buyers. They're just not going to come in like crazy and offer stupid prices because they know it's going to be a little bit easier to get deals and it's a little bit easier to negotiate. And like, Will, you said something smart earlier. I'm seeing with Brett now, he's telling me like live from the trenches. He's seeing a lot of sellers say this: I don't have any money right now. This asset's the only thing I got. I need to sell this and I need to sell this now. That conversation's happening multiple times a week with sellers, and sellers are smartening up now. They know that they're not in this hot commodity market where they have all these different options. So we're seeing the negotiations with sellers be a lot more, I wouldn't say they're easy, but they're easier than they were. And, we have no problem walking away from a deal that we know is not going to work. We're not going to roll over and try to buy a house that doesn't make any sense. We're going to let some other knucklehead do that, and then we'll get it when they can't sell it. So what are you seeing with your acquisitions guys on the buying side?
I was going to chime in on your point here.
Yeah.
Right now is not the time. This is just me personally, what I'm doing in my day-to-day business. Right now is not the time that I'm going to buy a rehab, that requires 40, 50 grand, I'm just not doing it. That's not me. Unless the property has 120, 140, 150K gross spread, I'll do it. I will also do it. I urge anyone on this call, be very mindful of the areas that you're buying in. If you're buying in a really hot market, like you just said, with the lot, that there's a big boys that are living there, you're still moving product. In my market, that would be Miami, certain areas of Miami, Hialeah, Miami Gardens, right? Areas like that, Westchester, Fort Lauderdale, if I'm east of 95, those areas are still moving. And another thing I'll do, and just to answer your question, what my acquisition guys are doing, it's adjusting their buy box. So I've cut my formula to about 70% of ARV. That's where I feel comfortable right now. I was a little bit early to that party, but that's fine, right? And then number two is being very mindful of the areas that we're buying in. So I'm still slightly aggressive if I know that it's a hot area. And the third thing, which is probably the most important thing, if I can stay below the 400K threshold, which is FHA territory, then I know I'm going to win. Meaning the requirements for FHA usually are below, sub 400 grand. Those are the people, that price point, that buyer's list goes from here to here, that buyer pool. And there's still a lot of affordability in that market. It's not to say that it's not expensive to buy, because, an FHA buyer still have to buy with 7% interest. But if you're in there and you're in that threshold, you're going to move inventory much faster than what you would. I'm definitely seeing, I was talking to Brandon, a mutual friend of ours, the other day. We both have properties above the 550, 600K mark on the market. And it's a lot more crickets on that side. But I have properties at the 375, 400K, 450, like that. I listed a rehab yesterday, or actually 2 days ago, 449. My mom was a listing agent, and we got 459 the first day. So it's 10K above asking. I don't care. And they're waiving appraisal contingencies. But again, that's right by FIU, smack dab in the heart of Miami. And it's a very affordable house, right? Now, it should be noted, 3-4 months ago, I would have gotten 525 for that house. So again, that's where the shift is, and that's what I see. So that's what I'm doing. I'm being very conservative. Listen, guys, you can always wholesale a property or cancel out and move on, right? Not that I'd want to string a seller along or anything like that, because I don't like to do business that way. But I'd much rather have the opportunity and the chance, if I think I'm within striking range, to test the market out on a wholesale, and then let the market tell me what it means. Like, we could run formulas and do ARVs and do all this fancy crap with deal calculators or whatever. But at the end of the day, when you lock it up and you actually put that piece of property into the market's going to tell you F off, or it's going to tell you yes, or it's going to tell you you're too high, or it might tell you, if you're lucky, you're too low. And you might get above asking, right? But the market is the only one that's the referee here. Everybody else is all bullshit. But the market's going to tell you that. So I'd much rather have that opportunity to test the market out there. And then, hey, we can adjust. Hey, do we need a reduction? We were off on this number. We need to cancel. It's not moving. Let's reframe the conversation with the seller. Or, hey, there was straight crickets here. Let's move on, right? But you don't have that opportunity. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So you definitely don't have that opportunity. And there's a fine line there with tying things up. And I think right now I'm seeing a lot of newer guys and girls that are tying a lot of crap up, and they're still operating as we were, 4, 5, 6 months ago. And dude, the emotional bandwidth and roller coaster that you go through with that, you're just adding so much more stress to your plate that's unnecessary. So, I would say, I would much rather at this point, I'd much rather have 6 contracts in a month, which is a low month historically for my business, but 6 contracts that I know are going to move so I can make some money, rather than 20 under contract and, 14 cancel.
Yeah.
Like I just much rather not do that. Right. I'm just not looking to do that right now.
We're doing the same thing, man. I had a talk with my team a couple of weeks ago. I said, listen, I don't care about volume. I care about good deals. And we want to focus on bigger deals. And ironically, this month, I think we have 6 on the board so far. And at least 5 of those look like they're rock solid, like they're going to go down, right? We have one that's kind of a little flaky, but you made a point, Will, I want to talk about, and that's renegotiating with sellers. And that's something that, listen, I don't like renegotiating. I don't think anyone likes renegotiating, especially when, you're trying to do the right thing. But at the end of the day, if you made a miscalculation, it is totally okay to renegotiate. I'll give you a quick case study. So we closed out a wholesale deal on Friday. Yeah, it was Friday. And it was in a great little zip code in New York, but right by the lake. We bought this thing way too high. I actually physically, I showed up to this house because I was in town. This was in August when we got it under contract. I went there, walked it, and I was like, whoa, this thing needs way more work than we thought. So we put it out to the market, put it out to the marketplace. Like you said, we wanted to validate this thing. And all the offers were coming in basically like either at or below what we were in escrow on. And I'm like, all right, well, we're going to have to either cancel or renegotiate. So we had a legitimate renegotiation with a seller. We explained why. He understood. We got a 25K price cut and we wholesaled it for 25 grand and it worked out. It's another house.
Story.
Yeah, exactly. And it was all good, right? At the end of the day, he could have said no, but he was like, he understood where we were coming from. We had another house upstate. Now this is so this was in Greenwood Lake. This other one was up in Kingston. And that guy or that lady, she inherited the property, complete disaster house. Like this thing is a nightmare property. And she was like, okay, I need this number for the property. So we tied it up and we told her, hey, listen, we have contingencies. We got to test this thing out. We got to pre-sell it, etc. Put it out to the marketplace, crickets at the ask price, dropped it, crickets, had a renegotiation with her. She understood where we're coming from, put it out at a better number, got a buyer. Hey, it's 12 grand. I'd like them to be 25, but the market said 12 grand. I said, okay. You got to not get cute in this market. Base hits will win the baseball game in this kind of economy. Get the momentum, get your team going, and you're going to get your home runs if you're taking enough swings, but you can't sleep on base hits, man. And that's what's given us a lot of momentum every week.
I agree. And I'm going to just like further iterate your point. It's very, very important right now to keep moving the needle. And what I mean by that, we could break that down in a lot of ways, but what I mean by that is a lot of newer guys and even guys and girls that are, we're doing 7 figures, whatever, from 1 million to 10, whatever. Dude, if you understand that this is a long-term game and you just keep moving that needle and you just keep moving forward, motion creates motion. So, the day that you just stop and we got to get every penny out of this one and let's do that and blah, blah, blah. Dude, you're just spinning your tires and you got the 4x4s off. Now you're 2x4. You're stuck in the mud and you're like, oh shit, somebody's gonna have to come winch me out. Just metaphorically, and you just keep moving, and that's what you got to keep doing. You got to go step up to the plate again, swing again, and keep going. And eventually, if you're doing that, number one, you're being productive. You're actually going through the motions. You're seeing what a real market feels like. You're seeing what a correction feels like, which is newer for a lot of us. But you're also not getting stuck in your own head, which is a big problem. Like when markets correct, a lot of people get stuck in their own head and they don't move. And I think one of the worst things you could do is not pivot. And pivoting is a term that, I've been using the word pivot with my team now for like 3 months. And the pivot, like it's so freaking crucial. And I don't care how you do it. There's a lot of ways to do it, but you have to understand and say, all right, this is not the same market anymore. Cool, check. What are we doing? What are we going to do differently? Are we going to start novations? Are we going to do this? Are we going to do that? Use the tools at your disposal, meaning make sure that simple things that you could be doing. And every municipality is different, so check with that. But dude, is there verbiage on your contract to novate contracts? You should have it. Is there verbiage on your contract to list it on the MLS? You should have it. Make your life easier. Have those conversations with the seller. It's the right framing. Because the more, right now, the name of the game is the more exposure you can have for your property, for your asset, the better your chances are that you're going to move, period. The less eyes you have, you're fucked. It's just not going to work because people are pickier. They have more opportunities than they've had in the last 2+ years. So now your property, you're not the hottest girl at the dance anymore. You're just not. You're just not. There's a group of smoke shows that just showed up. And now you're one of 12. And I'm just being honest. I always use these examples, but it's very relatable. It's very relatable. You're no longer the one little flag where 30 buyers are running to that flag. The game's over. Now it's like 30 flags and like 5 buyers. So 100%. These buyers are like, which flag looks the best to me and which is closer and which can I grab first? Period.
Dude, that's so freaking true. And that's even relevant too when you're selling retail product. Inspections and appraisals used to be like, we're going to waive that.
Yeah.
Now it's like I had a flip and man, this guy picked me apart on this property. I mean, I did decent work on it. I mean, listen, it wasn't Beverly Hills, but the guy was picking me apart for light switches, and like we left like a dresser in the garage, like, and he was like, I had to have a contractor at like 9 o'clock at night before closing, removing it, because like you got to be willing to be reasonable too, with these buyers, because at the end of the day, like even with wholesale buyers, I mean, you know, I mean, Will, we spoke about this on the phone a couple weeks ago. It's like we used to be able to put out a property, 10 people, one house, one time, be there or be square. And now
Correct.
it's like I'm calling, because I still sit in that seat in my company. Hey, John, I know you bought 10 houses from me over the last 2 years. What are your thoughts on those emails you've been seeing? We've been sending 2, 3 a week out. What are your thoughts? And I haven't seen you buy something. And hey, Greg, I see you and they're just overpriced. You got to get some feedback from your customers. If you guys have heard of the book, The Pumpkin Plan, like who are your best customers and what are they telling you, right? Because there's I'm sure if everyone's wholesaling here, there's probably 5 buyers on your buyers list, assuming you have a decent sized list, that have bought a decent amount of property from you. And if they haven't been buying recently, call them up. They've given you at least 6 figures, hopefully. Call them up, see what their concerns are. Because I mean, listen, we're still selling deals to unicorn buyers. And when I say unicorn, like onesie twosie people who might not be as sophisticated, but you got to work hard and you got to dig through a lot of gold to find those kind of people. So, we're trying to get honest feedback. We're seeing, oh, Greg, the price, this, that, and the other. And we're taking that into consideration now when we're negotiating. So I'll give you another quick example. So that deal that we wholesaled one last week, we got another one, same area. We could have bought the property for 140 and we wholesaled it. Long story short, we wholesaled it for 155. We could have like not had any resistance at 140 and we could have signed it up right away. But instead of doing that, we're like, we want to get the deal at a good number to give us insurance. Like I was going to close it no matter what. So I told my guy, I'm like, listen, go back to the house, pretend you forgot to go in the attic or something. Just look for a way to get back inside. And then on your way out the door, say, hey, I know we were supposed to speak Thursday, but I'm already here. Let's see if we can make something happen. So he ends up cutting the deal at 120 and he negotiated a lot harder because at the end of the day, it's that number still worked for the seller. Like they were cool with it. But like we know in this market, yes, there was competition on that deal, but at the end of the day, it is going to be easier over time to be a little bit harder when you're negotiating with sellers. And if that means losing a deal, that means losing a deal. Listen, we're not, we're going to do our best to try to get every house, but we have seen now, at least there's some sellers, we call them like tweakers, like where they're kind of on the fence. Yeah, that number kind of makes sense at 160, but maybe if there's no oil tank. So, we're maybe we'll do that. And we're like, listen, if you want to do that price, and you said the novation word, Will, we're negotiating terms on the novation now. So it's like, listen, seller, if you're stuck at 285, let me tell you about this program and we can get you to 285. This is exactly what it's going to look like. We had a property in Connecticut last week. Same thing. Locked it up, put it out to the list. All offers are coming in at our contract price. The guy's like, I'm not taking a nickel below what we agreed upon. And we had a contingency period. And we said, okay, well, if you're willing to do this program, we can continue with our contract. And we explained the novation. Now it's on the market. Hopefully we have a few offers by the end of the week. So you got to be, like you said, you got to have multiple tools in your tool belt. So Will, what are you doing? I mean, I don't do too many novations. I'm sure you do more than me. What are you guys kind of doing to frame these novations? Because that is a valid strategy and it does provide a lot of value to sellers if you really know how to present that thing correctly. It's powerful.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple, man. We keep it to the basics, right? A novation for anyone on this call is what I would call a long wholesale, meaning you can't wholesale or assign a property, right, to a conventional buyer. Okay. And this is tripping me out that you can walk and the background's not moving.
I'm like Batman.
Right. So with that being said, on a novation, you can. So number one, the novation, a novatable property, I guess is the right term, is a property that can pass a 4-point inspection, meaning your roof, your plumbing, your AC, right, and your electrical. So it is financeable, in other words, that a conventional buyer can come get a loan and a bank will approve it, right? So long story short, sellers that are, we call them tweeners, which is funny, it's kind of the same thing, but that pricing is right there and there's enough spread, right? And so the framing is pretty simple. Hey, listen, Mr. Seller, I understand that, or Mrs. Seller, I understand that the cash offer at 300,000 is unacceptable to you. Totally understand you, totally respect you. So number one, validate them. That's key. Number two, you say, I know you want 340, let's say, and let's just say the ARV is 400 for the sake of argument. Okay. So there's a 60K spread there, right? Gross, either way.
Yeah.
So the way that you present it, you say, look, I can't obviously pay you 340 cash because that's more of a retail number. You understand? I'm an investor. I'm trying to, obviously keep this property as a rental, get a certain amount of equity out, or, I'm obviously in business for profit, right? But I also understand you, Mr. Seller, that you need to get as much out of this property as possible, and it's in pretty decent shape. So you're right. It's not as bad as a 300K property, right? However, here's what we can do. So it's then you present like a united front, and then you say, here's what we can do. I work with a lot of buyers that are more on the retail side and are okay paying a higher price. So what we can do is I can market the property out, right? And if I can't close on it, I can bring a buyer that is going to close on it, and it's going to give you more money. And there's a lot of ways to present this novation, by the way. You can also present it in the sense that they can ride some appreciation with you, meaning, hey, if we get this price, you get this price. But if we get that price, you're going to get this price. So I'm incentivizing that seller to go with us. Maybe they're going to make an extra 10, 15 grand. Means a lot of money to a lot of people, right? And it is a lot of money. It's a considerable amount of money. It's 10 G's, 15 G's. Sometimes it might be 30 G's, right? So that's how you present it. But as long as you have the framing and the right paperwork and the right clauses in there, for that's the way you present it. So you're just, the golden rule here is the seller is getting what they want, and they're getting the price that they want. You are paying their costs. They're not coming out of pocket for anything. They're not paying a realtor. They're not doing any of that. You're handling it. Also, I don't know how complex you want to get into it, but novations, you could also get an agreement. And let's say I got to paint and patch the house, or maybe replace an AC for 4 or 5 grand. I do that work. I do it. Right? Because without that, you don't have the money to do it. And without that, you can't obtain financing. And without financing, you can't get the number that you want. So if I'm willing to do that, now I have some skin in the game, and then we can sell this property. You can resolve your issue. I can buy it. I can make some money. We're all good to go. Right? So that, again, guys, it's really simple. It's just working through the issues. Right? And as long as you frame it, you're forthright about it, and you're presenting options, and options is the key, and more money for that seller, then now the novation is more of a partnership rather than Mr. Investor, Mr. Seller on 2 separate teams, right? Which is usually the case with framing on a cash offer cycle.
100%.
Like, oh, I'm trying to get the property for the lowest possible. I'm trying to dig you over the head, and I'm trying to make 100 G's. That's how sellers view it in their mind. Whether it's true or not, that's how they view it. But on a novation, it's definitely much more of a team effort. Hey, we're going to work together to get the property to the highest value so you can collect the most amount of money.
100%.
And it's almost like when you frame it like that, they're not worried about where you're going to make. They just heard 340. That's what they heard. They don't give a shit about anything else, right? Or they care like, hey, my AC's shot. Great. Well, I'm going to fix the AC, right? So that's how we present the novations, and we're using that obviously in this market because there's still a lot of room for monetizing on the retail side, and there still are a lot of retail buyers that need to buy a place. So novations are an amazing tool to use.
Oh yeah, especially too, like these are leads you're already like getting, you're already paying for, and like you said, when you frame it to where it benefits the seller, it's like. And Brett, my acquisitions guy is great. He's like, it seems like the only thing getting in the way is that pesky price. I know you really want to sell to me. I want to buy from you, but that dang price just keeps getting in the way. How do we work around here? I have a way to work around the price. Hear me out on this. And then he like goes into the pitch. And it's like the thing actually I like about novations, which is interesting. They're actually more transparent than a wholesale deal if you think about it, because you're telling the seller, the homeowner, I'm putting this on the open market. There's going to be reasonable access. This is all from Eric Brewer. You guys should check him out. He's like the king of this. But I'm getting reasonable access, putting it on the open market, selling it to another buyer. I'm guaranteeing the net number, right? 340 in this case. And there's a lot of value that goes into innovations. Because I remember when I first learned about this, and me and my friend did a podcast on this, I was like, why wouldn't they just do that themselves, right? And the answer is that you're providing the work if needed, if reasonable work, not a full remodel. And you're pretty much doing a white glove service, and they're not going to have to worry about anything. All they got to do is make sure someone can open that property up. And a lot of sellers, they really get value from that because, like you said, Will, they want their number. If I can get my 340, I'm cool. And it's like, okay, if you know there's a 60K spread, yeah, you pay 20 grand out in commissions or whatever. You got
Yep.
10K and closing. You can turn literally zero into 15, 20 grand when you would have gotten a measly $1,500 referral fee from your agent buddy, which is better than nothing. But I mean, if you could turn 1,500 into 15,000, I mean, you could just take that and put that right back into marketing, get yourself another couple houses. So
Here's really the best way to do it and how we've done it. You really want to take novations to the next level. Partner up with a great fucking realtor that will be a member of your team and promise them, depending on how much is in your funnel and how much is in your pipeline. But my realtor knows they're going to get 20, 30 listings a year, regardless, because of the amount of marketing we do and the amount of leads that we house. So for a realtor, it's very easy for a realtor to come into my organization and crack 100 grand, 6 figures a year. It's no problem, right? So for them, it's teaming up with that realtor and teaching that realtor or putting them through the education of how to frame the novation. There's a way to do it. There's a way to schedule showings. There's a way to finesse with the seller. And if you have a really good realtor and you're not doing that all yourself, guess what it allows you to do? Go back to another RGA and go make more money on the cash offers or figure out better marketing strategies. So that's that. I don't need to do everything in my organization. And of course, if you're a one-man band, which I was once upon a time, my business partner was a 2-man band. I get it. You got to do what you got to do. But if you could get really good at this early on in your career, I didn't when I was starting out, because novations weren't like a cool thing back in 2017. And quite honestly, we didn't need to. But if I looked back historically at probably the last 5 years of investing, I'd probably have an extra $4 or $5 million laying around somewhere if I would have known novations. I'm being honest.
I was saying the same thing. I'd have at least $1 million if I knew about this when I started. Man.
Dude, I did my numbers. Like I reviewed all the canceled deals last year, and this is like, it's fucking mind boggling. So because of the amount of like we did 127 deals, we had a lot of canceled deals, right? Just so much volume. A good market, a good hyper appreciating market, and this is the biggest lesson I learned, hides a lot of bullshit. And what do I mean by that? I mean that studs in my organization looked really good, but it wasn't because of them. It was the market was making them look good, right? So when you actually drop a magnifying glass and you look through all your numbers, dude, I found an extra $2 million, literally verbatim, 2.1 to be exact, in revenue that was never realized because we didn't have enough follow-up. We were too busy with other deals. We were smashing other deals. We canceled whatever, automation, reductions, disposition side. I mean, bro, if you add that up, that's $2.1 million that should be in the organization extra. And this was a $7 million a year company anyway. So you're talking about almost being an 8-figure company. So I share that not to like impress anyone. I share it to impress upon you just how like when a market's really good, you have to pay. My lesson was you have to pay even more attention to what's going on with your numbers because they're just already assumed they're skewed. And the 100%. Last 2 years, my numbers have been skewed because it looks so good. When you're canceling 5, 6, 7 deals a month, but you're smashing 17 to 20, you're like, it's all right.
Whatever.
It was a $400K month. No big deal. But when you look back at it and then an economy slows down, now you're forced to look at everything and peel the layers back on the onion, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And you really start looking back and you're like, oh shit, this is a lot of money that we just left on the table because we were doing so well in other areas. And I definitely think that that's how you don't need to overmarket. You don't need to add more layers, more verticals and all that stuff. A lot of the times what's already in your CRM or what you've already paid for or what you've already generated, whether it's self-gen if you're a brand new person, or a person like myself and Greg that's marketing every single month, it doesn't matter. There's so much juice left in the squeeze. I promise you, it's already there. And I would start there before venturing out to a bunch of other crap. I 100%. Really would. 100%. And there's so much money there, man. Really
Todd Toback, a friend of mine, says this all the time. He says, you got 250 grand in your database sitting there right now. Go out there and get it. If you think about it, see, everyone here has probably got leads. I mean, we have thousands and thousands of leads in our system that, we're working. But I mean, the amount of gold just in your database alone, because think about it, 10% of people will convert on average, 15 if you're really good. That leaves 85% of people sitting in there with a problem that you still need to solve. So, I
Correct.
mean, if you just really go, and that doesn't cost any more money, right? It's going to cost time and strategy, and you got to work smart. But man, there's so much gold in just going deep versus trying to go wide. So,
Dude,
Will,
number
man,
one, you've already paid for it.
you've already paid for it. It's just free
You've
money at
already
that point.
paid for it, and the reality is, it's somebody. I found a fun fact too. Every on average, the bulk of that, and it was a historic. There was a trend. It was clear as day. 4.3 months after we canceled, that seller made a decision with another cash buyer. It was 4.3 months to the day. I took the average and I was like, holy shit. And I saw it happen like 45 times. And I was like, wow, this is a trend, dude. It's clear as day. It's 4.3 months. Boom, they make a decision for
You
whatever
go
reason.
right to the county recorder and you see the LLC who bought it. You go, fuck, I know those guys. They're my buddies. You know, I should.
Dude, I had a good buyer of mine 4.5 months later. Dude, they ripped $170,000 rehab. And I looked at it. I was like, oh, you gotta be shitting me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's good for them, but I just felt like, damn, we should have been better. That's just the
100%.
reality.
100%. So everyone, what questions you got for Will and I? We just jammed out for a solid 45. So we got 8 folks on here, 7 other guys. So what questions you guys got? You know, a big part of this is obviously to make this make this interactive. So I know there's no one on camera, but if anyone wants to unmute themselves, let's chop up some of your questions you might have. So Solomon, what's cracking, bro? I see you right here. I'm gonna unmute you.
What's up, Solomon?
How you doing, buddy? You there, Sol? Unmute yourself,
he
Solomon.
just muted him.
Oh, unmute yourself. You're good.
Yeah. Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yep, you're good, man.
Yeah.
Hey, Will. Hey, Greg.
What's
thank
up,
you so
brother?
much doing this. So much value. I have a bunch of questions, actually. My first question is like, for Novation, how do you price it? Like, if you want to put Novation on the market, and like, how long do you get a contract with the seller to actually put it on the market?
Yeah, so I'll take this one if you don't mind, Greg.
Yeah.
And I actually know Solomon. He's busting his ass to do this business, so I'm proud of him. With that being said, look, number one, give yourself as much time as possible, right? The longer the inspection period is, the longer the closing timeline is, the better. So there's not like one specific response, but do keep in mind that with a novation, you're going to be locking up a conventional buyer, which means financing, which means 30 to 45 days to closing. Okay, this is very important. This is very different from a cash buyer who's going to come along, has a hard money lender or private money or straight cash and can close in 2 to 3 weeks, right? That's not going to happen in these scenarios. Very, very rare. So I would add as much time as possible. And then number two, what you want to look for, which is a little tougher right now, right? Because ARVs are changing, but what you'd want to look for is something like this. Like, depending on there's a couple factors. Depending on what the house needs, that property needs, whether it needs, $5,000, a paint and patch, or is it 50 grand, right? Your novations are really going to work when the house is in my opinion, 10, 15 grand of work. So if that's my number, then I build that in. If the seller wants 330, let's say, and they won't go a penny below that, and the ARV is 400 and the house needs 10, let's just say, I know that I'm going to be all into this house for 340, closing costs, whatever, 345, add in the realtor commissions and this and that. I know that there's still, a 50K spread there, give or take. And I'd rather make, when all said and done, 35K net by converting this lead that would have been zero than nothing, right? So that's how I would frame that.
100%. No, that's a great answer. And it's like, you just want to price it to where, like, when you put that inventory on the open market, it's attractive, right? And it's cheaper than what else you're seeing. Because if like Will said earlier, if there's 10 hot chicks now versus when there used to be 1 or 2, you got to make sure that property is looking good, whether it's a price or whether it's condition, right? And these are properties, like Will said, that are financeable. So if all the inventory is trading at $399 and you go on at $379 or $385 or something like that, like, that buyer who's going to be looking at the 5 properties sees yours cheaper and it's similar, that's going to raise someone to say, hey, I want to take a look at that one. Let's try to make a deal on this thing. And then that way you're not stuck holding inventory and then having the seller kind of be confused. But when I learned this from Eric Brewer, like, if you're negotiating an ovation, it's your price, my terms, not your price, your terms. So they got to be willing to wait a little bit in order to do that. What is he called? The equity protection program.
The equity, yeah, we call
I
it
love
an
that.
equity guarantee, but
Yeah.
yeah, I took it from Brewer too.
Yeah. It's so smart. It's like, cause if you think about it, like if you're looking at a seller and they're stuck on their number, it's usually because it's not beat up. And if you compromise, hey, listen, I'll get you your number if you wait 90 days. And then, it's probably going to sell in 70 days. Now their expectations are 90. You get it done in 80 or 70, and now they're happy as a clam and they're giving you a testimonial. Don't
Also, you can
overprice your
flip,
stuff.
right, and you can flip that too. So if you tell somebody it's a price anchor, whatever way you cut it. So if I price anchor a seller and I'm like, hey, listen, I can get you your price, but you got to wait 90 days. And the seller backs up to me and says, whoa, I'm not willing to wait 90 days. I want my money in 30 days. And I'll say, well, listen, Cheech, here's the deal. You want your money in 30 days. I want my price. And then now there's a dance going on. So you might be able to think you're having ovation, but now you can pivot it back to a cash buyer. And a
100%.
lot of sellers value that. And right now in this economy, I would frame any conversation with the seller and be like, listen, I can give you this today, but I guarantee you a month or two from now, the number's going to go down because the numbers are going down just as a whole. So it's just
100%.
really understanding that seller psychology, if you will.
100%. We had an ovation that was in Delaware and it was on the market and it didn't trade because it needed too much work. And we converted that novation into a cash deal, into an assignment, and got paid in 2 weeks because the seller saw it on the open market. The market was saying price pretty well, conditions terrible. And that was my mistake. I kind of misjudged that. So then when we pivoted to a cash offer, I'll close in 2 weeks. He was happy as a clam. And he sent me he was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you closed in 2 weeks. This is insane. And because he was thinking he was going to have to wait to get more money, but he valued speed and convenience over more money because the house was beat up too. And he was tired. But the long and short is like, maybe you novate a property, you miscalculate it. And then all of a sudden it doesn't sell. And then you can go back and say, hey, if you want to get this done in 2 weeks, we need to be at X. And now all of a sudden, they're like, let's do it. So, it's just all about how you frame stuff. That's what I've realized is how do you frame it? How do you make it benefit the seller?
Yeah. A lot of these things that Greg is talking about, they're little, I call them pressure points that I would use with any seller. And think of them as like if you had a control panel, like in the cartoons where you had like all these levers and red and yellow and green buttons that you could press, and each one of them did something different. Just think of that. So like I use escrow amounts, I use time, like speed in transactions. I use like if I know a seller, if I'm listening to them, like, oh, I don't want to be tied up for 20 days in inspection period, and I already know their price is like solid. I'll just be like, well, what about 3 days? And they're like, are you serious? And I'm like, yeah, I can get the inspection done in 3 days. Would you be amenable to that? Well, could you meet me here? And then the people are like, well, I didn't even know you could do that. I'm like, but I can. So let's move forward. So I'm using these levers as I go, and if trust is a big factor for them, I might be like, if it's a deal, like if I know it's a deal, and like I'm getting a price that I want, then I'm like, what if I put 25K escrow? And they're like, oh shit, what? Right now, I'll have our attorney send you the escrow letter by the end of the day. Can we move forward now? I'm just like removing these objections just really quickly, and these are all things that it's just so it doesn't cost you any more money to do these things. It's just it's how you frame it, and then that might be the thing for the seller. It might be a tenant. It might be the fact that they live in Ohio and I'm in South Florida and the property's locked. I'll be like, listen, I'll replace the locks. I'll put a lock. I'll have a professional locksmith go out there. You don't even have to come down. And I'll send you a video of the property. How'd you like that? It's just like I'm always looking. It's just all solutions driven. I'm looking. I don't want a stupid objection to impede me from doing a transaction.
100%. And usually it's something like you said, well, it's like something dumb, like, wait, I can leave all my stuff in the house. It's like, well, if that's important to you, of course we could do that. That's part of our stay behind program. I think Eric Brewer, we're plugging Brewer on this. We got to get him on one of these. What does he call it? The utility liability program. So he's got this thing where like because I think Pennsylvania is a little different of a market, but if people don't want to pay their utility bills for the escrow period, they'll pay the utility bills, which are probably $200 a month max. And sometimes that will get him a deal over some other guy. And it's like just these little things, if you can really be a good listener and ask the right questions, it gets, and that's another thing that separates you, the person on this call, from your competition, is if the seller feels like you understand them better than anyone else, they might sell to you at a cheaper price because they know that you're going to do what you say they're going to do. And we had this scenario, actually, this is not too long ago. Some guy in Georgia offered these people way more money. We're the local guys. And they were like, well, they're in Georgia. How do we know they're going to close? And then obviously Brett was like, well, we're local. I live down the street. We could come over. And that got us the property. So it's like a lot of people, if you think about a seller, their psychology, right? Like, especially in Florida, Delaware, New York, these people know they can put their house on the market and it's not going to, like, they're aware of that. And the reason they're on the phone with you is because they don't want to do that usually. So if you can really find out what makes them tick and get them to communicate that and then verbally confirm that, it provides so much value, like more value than you think. Because if you think of a seller, they've probably never done this before. It's probably the first and last time they're doing this. And they have all these questions in their head. And like Dan Kennedy says, you want to begin the conversation in their mind. Hey, it seems like you're a little worried about that. It sounds like this is the one thing that's kind of holding you back from taking action. Let me make sure that is the real issue. And I want to show you exactly how I can solve that for you. So at the end of the day, whether you want to do business with me or not, you'll have exact clarity on what you could expect. And like, if you just say something like that, the seller's like, oh my God, that is exactly what I was worried about. And it builds so much rapport. It's crazy.
Agreed.
All right, Oscar, what's cracking, bro?
Well, I got 3 more questions. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Solomon, keep going, bro. My bad.
Yeah. So with innovation aspect, do you double close or you assign? How does that
happen? Yeah, you replace it. So what happens with innovation is you sign a contract and it basically says that the contract is allowed to be novated, which means canceled. And then you basically this. Well, can you explain this? It's kind of like I speak fast. You basically replace the contract with the next one. It's hard to explain.
It's Solomon. Just think of it like an assignment, but it's not called an assignment. You're just going to make a spread, and your attorney, you should close with a title company that knows how to do them. There's a bunch of them that know how to do them. That is a critical piece of it. But yes, there's no double closing. There's no assignment fee. It's a spread on the contract and you're paid out. That's all.
You just got to make sure the contract allows you to novate it, which basically is the legal. That's it, basically.
Gotcha. And with the realtor, they still get their commission, right? And
it's coming off of your fee. That's the key in innovation. The seller's not paying for this, so it's going to come off of your fee. So factor that into your pricing.
Okay. And one more question. So you talked about knowing when to pivot in like a changing market and stuff like that. So for someone that is new or someone that's just like by himself, how do we actually like, because we also don't have like margin for like, with me, I don't have margin to like trial and error to like just pull into marketing and stuff like that. How do we know how or when to pivot?
I would tell you, listen, I know because you and I have spoken before. So if I was you right now and I was starting out, from scratch again right now, which is how I started in 2017. No money, nothing, none of that. So I would stay in South Florida. I would pick Broward and Miami-Dade. I would pull the list that I want, however much you can afford right now. I would get them skip traced and I would hop on a power dialer literally 8, 10, 12 hours a day, however long you can stomach. And I would just run through that, learn as much as possible, make as many mistakes as possible, get all the repetitions out of the way, and I guarantee you deals will come out of it. It's just going to happen. So that's what I would do. Like, that's where the highest and best use of your time is. Don't try to get complex and go into another market and try to pick stuff off the MLS and, oh, what if I try this? And what if I do that? Even novations, like it might be a little bit too advanced for you right now, respectfully. So I would just focus on that and just finding the right seller, get some money, make 20, 30K, pivot it, hire out maybe a VA, do some of the marketing for you, buy more lists, etc., and rinse and repeat until you have enough money to build your team. That's how I did it over, a 5.5-year period. I was a 2-man band with my business partner for the first 2.5 years, 2 years of our career. Then we hired our first VA, so we didn't do anything other than fucking cold call, text, go to appointments, show it, assign, start again. Like that was it. That was it. When one of us was doing this, the other one was doing that, and vice versa. And that's it. And then eventually we grew our business and we built a team.
Good. Appreciate that. Yeah, because I mean, I'm in like different markets right now, and I'm trying to like just stay afloat in all those markets.
Focus on one, dude. Go deep. Yeah,
Dude,
going virtual fucks everything up. Yeah.
Nah, man. Listen, trust me. A lot of this whole virtual wholesaling crap is like, it sounds so sexy, and it's not crap. I do a lot of virtual deals every month, but I've built up to that. It's almost like I love to work out, right? So it's the equivalent of like, I've been working out hard now for about a year and a half, right? So I could go to a CrossFit gym, pop in, and I might be able to hang with some of those guys. You know what I mean? But I built up to that. If I did that a year and a half ago, I'd break my back, break my leg. I was fat. I mean, there's a lot of things that were keeping me from doing that. So I just stuck to one thing until I became a master of it, if you will. And then I started, dude, I didn't even open up a market till 2 years ago. Another market outside of Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County. And I was doing millions in those three, millions for years. And then I decided to say, well, you know what? Let me try Tampa. Oh, let me try Clearwater. Oh, let me try Jacksonville. Let me try Orlando. And you know, even then it was hard for me. It was hard for my team. There was a lot of logistical bullshit that goes into that. And I was like, oh, I'm a stud. I'm doing $4 million a year in South Florida. And I went to Tampa, got smoked because it wasn't my market.
Yeah.
And I'm man enough to admit that. But again, it's working up to that. You know what I'm saying?
100%.
Laser focus, Solomon. That's what you need. Anyone who's newer, I swear, it's just, I know it sounds unsexy because it is, but laser focus is where you need to live. Laser focus, like laser. You don't need to be doing anything else. Laser. Pick 4 or 5 activities a day, track them and do them like 10, 12 hours a day. I wouldn't even have lunch, honestly. I would sit and have lunch at whatever, my desk or my room or wherever it was. Like I was living at my mom's house at the time. So like that's the dedication. And then eventually it'll just grow. That's it.
So with cold calling, how do you actually track your numbers and stuff like that? Because I kind of track like make offers and like how many calls, how many contacts. But is there like any more like things you need to track to actually like see the progress and everything?
I'd keep it simple. Again, I would track the number of dials a day, the contact rate I'm having, how many offers a day am I making, and you know, the deliverability rate. So I would refresh my numbers every 3, 4, 5 days so you don't get spam. And that's it.
100%.
That's all I would do. And then over a period of like 2 months, 3 months, I would say, hey, okay, cool. I made 20,000 dials. I got 2,000 contacts. I made 200 offers and I got 4 or 5 deals, whatever it might be. And then boom, I would work on that. And then over time, your numbers are going to get better because you're getting better. So you can convert better, you can have better conversations, and you're just doing better. You're more comfortable.
100%. And you get momentum.
The only reason why you're not right, and the only reason why you're not having the results that you want to have is because you haven't done the activities that are required for a long enough period of time. Period. If I said nothing else on this call,
that's all you need to know, right?
Done.
Comes with a free copy of the Compound Effect. Solomon, if you literally just got laser focused and you said my objective, there's a great book called Measure What Matters, and it's all about objectives and key results. If you set a main monthly objective every month and it was like, I'm getting 40 offers this month, come hell or high water, that's a good benchmark. Because if you make 40 offers, maybe you start to see your one KPI is 1 out of 20 gets accepted. And now you're reverse engineering 2 deals a month and you're making, let's say 20 grand a ticket. Now you got 40 grand a month over time. So you got to always take that activity and get, what is the main objective? If my main objective this month is 40 offers, that means I got to make 10 offers a week. That means I got to make 1 offer a day. And if I need to make 1 offer a day to be on track for my 40 offers a week or et cetera, you got to then reverse engineer that activity. So anything you're doing that is not either somewhat correlated or directly correlated to that activity is a waste of your time. Because at the end of the day, it's a base hit a day. The next day you have a base hit. The next day you got a base hit. Next thing you know, you win the damn World Series. Now you're doing 3, 4, 5 houses a month, right? And it's the simple wins every day. It's not some crazy day where you got 3 contracts. If you got 3 contracts in one day, I guarantee it's because that compound activity of the trailing 90 was how you got that momentum going, you know?
In my business, personally, it felt like for 2.5 years, I was here. It felt like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, it felt like
Valley of Despair. And it shoots up.
But it was the compound effect, really, by Darren Hardy that
right.
you did so much shit front load and back load that it just took off. And then people look at you and they're like, oh man, look at this guy, came out of nowhere. And it's like, yeah, it's like 3 years of shit to get here, you know? So if you can stomach that, that's all you need, bro. You don't need money to do this.
Yeah. And it's like too, like, let's say when you start, I'm just using a random note. Let's say you need 50 offers to get a deal. If you do that consistently, you're going to eventually need 40 offers and then 30 offers. And then you know your one KPI. And then if you hire someone, okay, we need like 30 offers to get a deal. But until you do those activities daily, you won't know your numbers, right? And that's why it's so important to track everything you're doing. Let's say in a reasonable contact rate, if your cold calling is 10%, if you track that for 3 months and you see your contact rate's 5%, maybe the data's off, maybe the list is off. Like you got to have
maybe your numbers are being spammed.
Yeah.
Maybe your numbers are being spammed. That's why I have my team refresh their numbers every 2-3 days, period. New numbers. Because there's nothing worse than having good data, a lot of labor, and a lot of activity, and the results aren't coming. And it's because you don't even give yourself enough of a chance to do it because you're being spammed. Next question. Who's got it?
Oscar, what's cooking, bro?
What's going on, man? Hey, Greg and Will, if you guys could talk a little bit about what the first 2 years look like in business, some of the pitfalls, because we all know that going from 1 million in revenue to 3, that's like a whole different set of problems, right? So you guys could talk a little bit about that.
So what was the question?
He wants to know like the first 2 years. I guess I'll start if that's cool, Oscar.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I got started. I was 20. I had $2,000 in the bank. I was in college. So I had like no money to market whatsoever. So I was handwriting letters. I was putting out bandit signs and I was swinging the bat, right? It took me 9 months to get my first house. I think I made $1,000 on it. Then like 2 months later, I made $5,000. Then I started taking a little bit of that, investing a little bit more into marketing, but I was kind of like tiptoeing around and I didn't have any systems. Like, and I didn't have a team or anything like that. I couldn't even fathom that at the time, but I had no systems. I had no daily operating systems. I wasn't tracking anything. I was just throwing a bunch of activity at the wall and seeing what stuck. Once I started this, about a year and a half into it, I started like systematically tracking all the activities I was personally doing. And then I discovered cold calling, which this is in 2018 before it was super like, popular. And I was like, I'm going to sit here. This is where the momentum started. This was in 2018. I told myself, this was January 2nd, 2018, because January 1st was like a wash, basically. I said, I'm going to sit here for 4 hours a day, and I'm going to call these vacant properties on a tax delinquent list in Dallas, Texas at the time. And I'm going to buy properties without ever seeing them. And literally took me like 60 days of that daily activity to get one house, made 30. Then the next week, that momentum, got another house, made another 30. And then I started to reverse engineer. Okay, every time I spend like 4 hours a day, I'm getting 1 to 2 leads, and these are hot leads. Therefore, we're making like 1 to 2 offers over time. And that slowly started to build up. Okay, 3 houses, 4 houses. Now we got 4 houses a month. Now I'm not seeing them. Now I got some money in the bank. Now I can invest that in marketing. But it was literally like the first year was just a straight grind. And then like a year and like about 6 months after that, so a year and a half later, I started learning from my own mistakes and tracking the activities I was doing to then finally see, okay, if I do this cause, I get this effect. And now I can just consistently do that to get consistent income in my life and in my business to then reinvest and get more leads to then reinvest to get that momentum. And then once you have a steaming hot momentum on your side, then you still got to work hard, but you can work smarter. You can buy the traffic instead of generate the traffic via cold calling. You can hire a VA, you can get a salesperson, but you got to go through that like straight grind. At least that's how I did it, to get that momentum, to really know what you're doing. So then when you do buy the traffic and spend 10 grand a month on marketing, you're not like guessing. You're like, okay, I know these numbers. I know this, I know that. So that's my story. What about you, Will?
Notice he said 60 days, 4 hours a day. That's
every day. I never missed, bro.
That's 240 hours. 240 hours. Most people can't sit still for an hour or do something for an hour. Most people can't go to the gym for an hour. He did 240 fucking hours of one activity to get a deal. Just saying. That's what I paid attention to. But yeah, when I started off, so you said the first 2 years, right? That's what he said, Oscar?
Yeah.
Cool.
Right, yeah, like
so
the first 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, man. Real quick. For me, I was at Merrill Lynch. I got fired. I got started. I had like negative $40,000 in debt between student debt, credit cards, whatever. I went out. I found a mentor, cold called him. I started cold calling, texting, anything I can get my hands on. I did the same exact thing, same activity. In 91 days, I was able to clear the first deal. And then after that, I did like 4 more with that mentor. And then, you know, we broke off, did our own thing. But yeah, the first 2 years of business were either on the phone, dialing, pulling a new list, showing a property to buyers, working on getting more buyers, running comps, any activity that had to do with a house or with generating revenue. And if I wasn't doing that, I was not going out, I was not eating shit, I didn't have time or money to do either one, and I was reading, listening to podcasts, learning, and digesting as much as I possibly could. So I was learning about everything. It was like a full obsession for the first 2 years. And then, you know, about a year and a half in, we were able to hire our first VA. We had a little bit of money. And then, you know, we did some first mail campaigns, and it was really small. It was like 5,000 postcards with that time where, I don't know, that was like $3,000 a month, $2,500 a month. It was a lot of money. And then from there, little by little, I got a couple deals from mail and, you know, had a bunch of mess ups, you know, didn't reinvest into marketing as much as we should have. Learned that lesson and kept going. And then, you know, before you knew it, it was 2 years, and, you know, had a little bit of savings and, you know, from the business and my efforts. But yeah, 2 years in, I was still either dispositioning the deals or with my business partner, acquiring deals, doing cold calls and trying to get more deals or door knocking. I mean, it didn't matter. That was the first 2 years of business for me.
Here's a takeaway I got from that Will just said. Every activity he was doing was either directly or indirectly related to revenue, even if that was him sharpening his saw and learning, right? Everything had an objective, and it was, what's going to get me closer to my revenue? What's going to get me closer to cash, right? He wasn't, you know, shuffling his business cards around. He wasn't getting his LLC squared away. He was like,
nope.
How do I talk to a seller or a buyer or make an offer, right? That's something you got to pick up on. If it's not tied to revenue, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. And very key. Notice that I didn't say I tried to open up another market. I tried to start an Amazon business, or I tried to buy Ethereum at 3 cents on the dollar. I didn't try to do any of that shit. And there was a bunch of shiny pennies around me, by the way. And by the way, late at night for the first year of business, I would drive Uber. I would pray to God that none of my friends would show up on an Uber, but I would drive Uber just to make some money to stay afloat, just for food. And
I did
so
not know
again,
that, bro. I respect the hell out of you for that, man. I did not know
that. Was like 9 p.m. to like 1 a.m. I was doing that for like about, I would say at least 10 months. And my business partner was doing the same thing. And we were picking people up in South Beach, Miami. And we were just, again, there was nothing you could tell me that was going to deter me. And keep in mind, guys, I was a college graduate, graduated top of my class, and I got fired from Merrill Lynch in New York. So imagine how humbling and how much of a fucking pill I had to swallow to drive an Uber, okay, while people were drunk in the backseat of my car. And I was all the while in between rides, I was listening to books and positive affirmation. I'm like, you're not crazy. You're not crazy. You're going to be rich. You're going to be rich. You're going to be rich. You're going to be okay. You're going to be okay. You're not insane. Your mom's not right. She's crazy. No, you're right. You're right. And I was sticking to that. So again, I'm not saying that to impress you. I'm just telling you that was the mindset. And again, I still believe it's still the mindset that I have today. It's just different. But that's how ironclad it was for me. And like, I fired my friends. I didn't have anybody. I didn't want to go to fucking happy. I didn't want to hear anybody. I just wanted, I had blinders on, and that's all I did. And I believe that if you approach life that way, the universe moves the fuck out of the way and good things come your way. That's just my belief. It's no right or wrong, but that's just how I carry myself.
Love it. That's fucking awesome, bro. I did not know that. Mad respect for that. And that's the thing. It's like, a lot of people, like when they get started, at least when I got started, similar to you, Will, I was so obsessed with wanting to fucking win and wanting this business to work. I didn't give a fuck that it was 9 o'clock at night and I'm putting bandit signs out on the side of the fucking road on a Friday night. I was like, you know what? This is going to separate me from everyone else. And I remember I said in my head, I'm like, you know what? I'm putting these signs out now in my $200 a month lease that I can barely fucking afford. But I know in 3 to 5 years from now, the fucking choices I made today are going to reward me handsomely down the fucking road when I'm living in San Diego, doing whatever I want, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, you have different challenges as you grow, but I knew in that moment, those choices that I made are going to give me the momentum that I need to have to win in the future. And it's like, it's hard for people to sometimes see past the present moment, right? Putting signs out around in New York when it's fucking ice cold sucks. When you got crazy people looking and screaming at you, But it's like, I knew that was going to get the fucking phone to ring for me to get the offers out to get the money in my damn bank account. You know what I'm saying?
So I appreciate that, Erwin. I never, it's funny as hell. You're saying about bandit signs. I remember one distinct story. So I never put out bandit signs for real estate, which is a fun fact. But before real estate, for like 8 months before that, I was doing diabetic testing strips because a buddy of mine told me that you can make some money. So while I was learning real estate, I was putting out these little fucking bandit signs that said cash for test strips and with a number. And my partner and I would literally, yeah, some people still do it. So my partner and I would do this shit at night. And I remember one night distinctly in Miami, dude, I was on US 1. It was like 1 a.m. because we would go from like 9 p.m. till 4 a.m. and because the city wouldn't take them down. So we would go, I would rent a little like U-Haul van. My mom had to give me the money for it. And I would put like 500 signs. And my partner and I were like, we're not fucking coming back home till all 500 signs are down. So we would do 500 signs in like 4 or 5 hours. And dude, I remember one night it started pouring rain and I had like 5 bandit signs underneath my arm. And I was just walking drenched, bro. And I was crying, dude. Like, true story. I was crying out there. And I was so pissed. And I was like, fuck, this shit doesn't work. Like, I had a freaking breakdown in the middle of US 1, bawling, man. We're putting up fucking signs. But again, what did I do the next day? Got the fuck up.
Put the fucking signs up, bro.
And put my boots on. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that. And I laugh now because I am thankful for that version of William that did that shit to get this guy here today. I really am. And it's almost like, it's like a proud parent, but of yourself.
Yeah.
So I'm thankful of that guy because if he wouldn't, and if he would have gone back to Merrill Lynch, I'd be a depressed fucking person, you know? And I would have never seen what's possible. You know
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, man.
All right, Simon, we're gonna hit you in a minute. Let me just get Av right here. Is that how I say your name, man? I'm sorry about that if I butchered your name.
Nah, it's all good, man. It's Av OV. OV is what I usually go by.
OV, what's cracking, bro?
What's going on, Greg? Hey, William. Thanks you guys for sharing this knowledge. Sorry I got here a little late.
No worries.
Quick question. As far as things go, are you guys gonna give us access to this recording?
Yeah, shoot me an email after, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com, and I'll just send you the Dropbox link.
Oh, I appreciate that. Okay, and then the next thing. So I'm here in New York City itself. I know you and me talked in the past about New York. I know you was a little bit more upstate. Yeah, so I'm trying to see how to get in the business and what makes sense, whether going virtual, whether staying local.
You live in New York. You live in the boroughs, or you live in the suburbs?
Yeah, I live in Brooklyn.
You live in Brooklyn? All right,
Brooklyn! Peter Luger, baby.
Dude, I know guys in Brooklyn who make $500K fucking wholesale deals. So listen, I will say this: Brooklyn is not as easy as the Hudson Valley or Long Island, right? But you can make more money on properties in Brooklyn if you know what you're doing. So if I were you, I would probably market in Brooklyn because you're literally there. And then I would either decide to go Brooklyn in like Suffolk County, which is not far from you, which is the glorified same area, or Brooklyn and like the Hudson Valley, which is like an hour north of you. So Brooklyn itself, you can market there for sure. But I would also market in like the suburb areas too, so you don't just kind of put all your eggs in one basket in Brooklyn there. Because I mean, the Hudson Valley, Brooklyn, New York City, Long Island, it's the same region. It's not like you're marketing in like fucking Syracuse or you're in, Tallahassee, Florida or something like that. So if you're going to be marketing in Suffolk County or if you're going to be marketing in the Hudson Valley, I would stay below 450 and under. I wouldn't be jerking around in like the price points up there that are above 450, just because you're going to have a higher probability of deals going down under 450. And if you're in Brooklyn, I mean, the median house price in Brooklyn is probably like $1 million, maybe 900 grand. I would go, 900K or below. And there's going to be a lot of 2 families, 3 families, 4 families. So I would definitely not go for the luxury stuff in Brooklyn. I would go for the luxury stuff in the Hudson Valley or in Long Island. And you want to make sure that you're marketing to people under the median house price, whatever submarket that's going to be.
Okay, perfect. I don't know anybody out here in Brooklyn that actually did wholesaling. So I mean, that's news to me. That's great that you actually have these relationships. Is there anybody that you could potentially put me in play with? The fact that I'm new at this, that I can probably pick up some gems from.
There's a guy named Greg Helbeck. I don't know where he lives. You can hit me up, bro. I'm here to help.
Oh, I appreciate that, bro.
Yeah.
I would
send me an email.
But I'm not.
Send me an email, greg@velocityhousebuyers.com. I put it in the chat. Let's connect.
Oh, you're the man. I appreciate you, Greg. Thanks.
We almost had like a 70K banger in Queens, but something happened with the fucking seller. And like, I realized, I was like, oh shit, we got to do more marketing in New York City. It was like this junky commercial building.
What happened was that I bought it, Greg. That's the problem.
Yeah. This guy named Will from Fort Lauderdale showed up with some fucking construction boots on and took this house. He was a contractor.
I was putting bandit signs out there, boy.
Yeah, right. So yeah, man, hit me up. We can connect, man. We can do some JVs together. We do a lot of JVs with people, man. So we're always happy to do that. All right, Solomon, what's up, brother? I know you got another question, and we're gonna wrap this up in a couple minutes, guys. Solomon, you there?
No, I'm good. I didn't have any questions.
Nothing else?
No.
All right. Anyone got any final questions here? Oh yeah, sure, bro.
Okay, so basically, this is a situation I'm running across. So my parents have a 6-unit building here in Brooklyn, right?
Okay.
So they're looking to get rid of it, and we agreed for me to purchase it from them. So now with the interest rates being so high and the property being free and clear, I don't want to actually take out a mortgage. You know what I mean?
Have them do owner finance.
Have them take the note back, bro.
Yeah, bro. That's easy money.
Oh, can you elaborate?
Yeah, sure. So do you have any like money to put down and stuff?
Yeah, I do. But basically, what happened was they originally wanted $900K for the house. We settled at
for 6 units. That's a fucking banging deal, bro.
Right. So once I renovate it, which is gonna take it's probably like a gut.
Oh, okay, I mean? That makes sense then at that price.
Yeah, it's gonna probably skyrocket to over like $2 million.
Okay. Still
so it's in here, East New York. So what I want to do is I have about another 900 square foot that I can add to the property. So I was thinking about taking both sides of the 3rd floor and making them duplexes. You know what I mean? Because 900 square foot is not that much for another apartment, probably.
Yeah.
Or it's gonna look weird. But I was just gonna knock, basically add another level, but just make a duplex on both sides of the building. But as far as like going with the funding and stuff, I originally was gonna try to go with business credit cards and just keep funding the rehab like that. But I don't know if that makes sense.
I personally wouldn't do it that way. This is just my 2 cents. I would, come to an understanding with your parents and tell them, look, I'll give you guys be the bank, right? I'm going to pay you more like a mortgager, right? I'll pay you just like I would the bank. I'd rather the money stay in the family than go to the bank, right? I'd put down X amount down payment, have them charge you 7-8% interest, whatever's fair, right? Doesn't really matter because you're going to be able to renovate these units and rent them out. So I would do that, have them hold the note for like at least a year, meaning have them be your bank, right, for at least a year. And dude, from there, you can refi out a year and a half down the line. You don't even really care what rate because you're probably going to live in one, I would assume, right, and rent out the other 5. And now you got residual income, bro. And I mean, your parents get their money. They're just going to get it a little bit further down the line. That's what I would do, but I wouldn't sell that. I would keep that. There's no reason. Like
exactly.
The next time that you're gonna find a 6-plex, a 6-unit in New York and Brooklyn, I don't know.
Yeah, that's a banging price, dude.
Yeah,
right price.
And if you want to partner on that deal, I'm open. So
yeah,
and I know Greg would be too.
So you should also, OV, you should also do yourself a favor before you get involved in this deal and, almost look at it like a hard money lender. I know when I borrow money from hard money lenders, they make me get an appraisal. Get an ARV appraisal. Say, hey, this is exactly my objective with this property. What do you think it's going to be worth on the back end if I do X, Y, and Z to it? And you go on a future pace what that value is going to come in at. And that way they can kind of point you in the right direction. And then they might be able to do it maybe a second position construction. Not a lot of lenders won't do that, but some might,
like a bridge loan.
Junior mortgage or something like that.
Do like a bridge loan. You could do like a bridge loan for that.
Some sort of a short-term thing. Yeah.
I would figure out a way though to keep that property for yourself.
Yeah.
That's the moral of the story. Get your parents as much money as you can. Even if you have to pay your parents a little bit more money, it doesn't matter to you because you're getting something. You're getting future value. You know what I'm saying? If I know something, first of all, if my parents had something that was worth $2 million and they're giving it to me for 800, 900, whatever it was, and I got to put in 300-400, dude, I would bang down everybody's door to find the money. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't give it away for sure.
Absolutely. That's my same thought process. They'll work with me as far as things go. Like, I could probably even structure it where I can potentially pay them, annually a salary. I'm pretty sure that they'll work with me.
Yeah,
Because
you just pay them like a
regular
mortgage.
right,
That's it.
right,
And it's like the best way to pitch that is, look, it's like you being a landlord without being a landlord. Like, I'm taking the responsibility of being a landlord, but I'm paying you a mortgage just like you would collect cash flow as a landlord. That's the best way to present that. That's how I present all my owner finance deals, whether it's family or business. And owners love that because they're like, well, shit, I get a down payment up front. I get protected because I'm first position. So if anything ever happens to the property, they can take it back, right? If you stop paying, which I know you wouldn't. And then I get monthly income, whatever it may be. It might be $3-4 grand a month for them. And they're getting that every month. And it's just interest expense. And that's it. And then you go rent it, let's say for $8 grand a month, and you make the spread. That's it.
And then you cash them out in a couple years, and then they're out of there.
And then when I stay in Brooklyn, you get Airbnb to me.
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
No, absolutely.
People helping people. It's powerful stuff.
It's true. It's true.
That's it.
I was thinking about reaching out to a few lenders. One of them quoted me at about 9% potentially to like borrow money from them.
That's reasonable.
We'll borrow it.
Okay.
I'd be borrow money because it's 9% annual. That's the thing. So 9% annual, bro. That's freaking 0.6% a month. That's free money. And given that the interest rate that you're going to get from a bank is probably 7.5%, 8%, shit, why not?
Right.
Why not? Why not?
Right. My biggest objective now is finding a good contractor. Like these guys want to come in and probably rate me on these.
Yeah, that's going to be your task. You want to get at least 5 bids. At least 5 bids.
Yeah.
You want to check references. You want to do background checks, just like you do.
Bro, you know what? Hit me up because one of my really good friends, John McSherry, is like a power broker and fix and flipper in New York. Hit me up, and he does a lot in Brooklyn.
There you go.
DM me after this, and I'll connect you because, bro, the guy's super connected, and he'll be able to. And I trust that guy. He's a good person. He's a good dude.
No, so funny, man. John actually came out here. John visited me.
Shit.
Yeah, John. I gave him a text on Instagram.
Right.
But I was trying to still figure out the finance then, right?
Right.
But John has definitely given me great advice. But as far as like contractors, the 2 or 3 people that he had in mind, I guess sometimes he's tied up, so I didn't want to like particularly bother him. But I am gonna touch base with him because he is somebody who's actively tried to help. But I guess sometimes he gets overwhelmed too. So I don't want to be on him.
Yeah, he blew up
super
very
busy.
Yeah, he comes down here all the time. It's funny. John and I have been friends for years. I'll ping him and just let him know, like, yo, maybe help this guy out.
Okay, yeah, I'd appreciate that, bro. I definitely appreciate that. Just let him know.
Yeah, just DM me or like text me, or I don't really know how you would do this with the, I don't know, Greg. How would they
send
get
him, OV, send him a DM on IG. Just say, hey man, we were on that call. Let me know about that guy, and then he'll get right back to you.
Okay. All right. So your name is the same on IG?
It's Willie Numbers is what it would be on IG. I'll just put it in the chat here. Hold on.
Oh, I appreciate that, Will.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, you guys are the best, man. I appreciate you guys sharing this knowledge. Like, a lot of people probably, I don't know if it was many people on here today, but just because it's a free call doesn't mean it's no value.
Yeah, they missed an opportunity to get some gold full free. I'll tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wish, dude. Back when I
oh my God,
man. But in 2017, nobody was really doing this, man. You had to pay for everything.
Sure.
And also like there wasn't like YouTube wasn't that big, Zooms weren't that, webinars weren't that big.
No.
So you didn't get that stuff. It's funny,
not like it was for sure.
Nah,
right.
It wasn't like that. It wasn't as readily accessible.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, we're gonna start doing more of these, man. So that's our whole intention, is just to kind of put some good juju out there to the universe.
Give back.
Absolutely.
Oh, show.
Absolutely.
All right, so we got Joshua and Erwin, last 2 up here. So Erwin, we'll start with you because you're closer on my screen. What's cracking, bro?
Hey, what's going on, Greg?
How you doing?
Will, hey, thank you guys for doing this. Honestly, I've taken a few snaps and I'll put it on my story already and tagged you guys.
Thanks, bro.
Appreciate you.
But honestly, I wanted to get your input. I got in a call with Stratton Brown this morning. I don't know if it's for his mastermind that he's creating, but he didn't even shoot it. He didn't even sell it today on the call. And he told me just to focus on just acquisitions. And to me, I'm actually stressing out trying to build the disposition part of my business right now. And I'm thinking of just going back, just doing all the acquisitions, finding the gold in my system already, and then probably shooting the deal to someone who's a disposition person or Keegley. And I don't even know if Keegley operates here in California. And I'm trying to reach out to them because I just sent them a deal that I'm looking at now. But yeah, if
Well, Greg's in Cali.
What town you in, bro?
I'm in LA. I was in San Diego, Greg. I was near you for a little bit. And actually that's how I found you. I was looking for other wholesalers in the area, and you're the only one who came up. I've listened to all the podcasts.
I got friends in LA. I got some guys that do deals out there. Yeah.
Erwin, I think Stratton's advice is pretty solid. I mean, if you want to focus on the most controllable thing, it's acquiring the customer, right? And if you got to JV your deals to start before you build your buyers list, I think that's phenomenal advice. Because even if you chop it down 50-50, I mean, 50% of 30 racks is still 15 G's, right? And you don't have to do any work on the back end. So I would probably work with a solid investor in that market who's wholesaling. Maybe they're not the biggest game in town, but they're not the smallest game in town.
Yeah.
You'll be a little bit more involved with them. I don't know Keegley. I don't know anything about them, but I know they're a relatively big company. So I would test out probably more of a smaller-ish investor who's doing real business, who really knows what they're doing, to make sure they're actually selling your property at the right number. They're going to be a little bit more involved with you. And then if that works out, you got, a good relationship there you can do business with. And if, they don't really deliver what you think they can deliver, you test out maybe Keegley. But you want to get that momentum and you want to get that revenue in the door. And if you got to chop that deal down the middle 50-50 to start, you can get some money in the bank, and then you can start building your buyers list up as you obviously.
One of the best things that you can do is when I don't know if you're just starting out or if you're already doing deals, but one of the things that I personally practiced when I was first starting out, and I still practice it today, but just with like higher level mentors, like guys that are like, 50 mil, 100 mil, like how can I get into their sphere of influence, right? And the principle is still the same. Doesn't matter whether you're talking to a guy who's worth 300 million or a guy that's doing 300 grand a year in revenue, right? The principle is the same. And my principle is this: I want to over deliver on value on the front end with a partnership. And I am okay with, and I was in the beginning of my career, hey, I got a 30K deal. Cool, man. Here's 15. It's 15 for me. Teach me how to do this, or you do that. Quick, speed for money. I can move on to go do another 30K deal. And now I got a partner for life. Now I got a relationship. So when I ping him, the guy that I'm partnering with today, let's just say, and he's making 15 grand and he's helping me find a buyer, that guy might be a private lender for me tomorrow, or that guy might be in a tough spot and be like, hey man, I picked up this 10-unit building, don't know what to do with it. Now you're in a financial position to go capitalize. Boom, now you just added 10 doors. I say that example because that literally happened to me early on in my career. So again, I didn't even expect that to happen. I had no idea, but I was just over delivering. My first mentor, I told him, I cold called him, I said, I will give you my first, like 50% of my first 5 deals. Teach me how to do this business and I'll pay for the market. And how could he say no? He was like, well, this guy didn't even give me an option and he's going to pay for his marketing. Where the fuck's my downside? Worst case scenario, this kid hits a couple deals. Boom, I get 50%. Him, it ended up being 75K for him. So it's not a bad day for him. You know what I mean?
Not bad.
So that's how I would approach that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But acquisition is really important.
Yeah, I believe that. I've been actually, the dispositions has been feeling pretty heavy because the acquisition in terms of the system, it's only 1,000 texts a day, but we're seeing 3 to 5 net leads come through that, and then that's what I'm focusing on. But in terms of building the disposition, not knowing with the market right now how to offer, and I'm using data on what the market is and what the offer is going to be looking like. But I've always, in the back of my mind, I was like, I need a business partner in terms of doing the disposition, because I feel like I got 2 kids, man. I got a newborn. I spend 4 to 6 hours probably a day trying to do this. I'm trying to bang out 12, but the kid, I'm sleep training right now too. So all that I'm pushing for. But if you can connect me with people who are actual like wholesalers, dispositions, or investors, I'd be down, because I have view in mind, but they're telling me they're flippers and they're like, I need 40% on the deal. And it's
you want to work with wholesale. If you want to JV with people, you want to JV with wholesalers who are getting top dollar for their properties.
Yeah.
And listen, also, man, toss it out on the MLS. That's something that's not going to cost you much. If you have the ability to do that, throw it up on the MLS. The MLS, I'm a firm believer. Like the more that I've grown, it's the smarter I want to work. So the MLS is like a tool. it like leverages so much effort off of me. And the MLS is the biggest buyers list. So let the MLS do the work. You know what I mean? You got to just find little, and especially you, I see the toys back there. Like, hey, congrats, by the way. But like, you have so much limited time, which is actually, by the way, there's a great book called, it's The Theory of Constraints. Amazing book. But dude, you have so much time constraint where you can't afford to fuck around with time. You can't. Yeah. Like, you need to be, 4 hours a day. It's my family, right? So take that and be like, all right, well, these 4 freaking hours, this is what I got, and it's got to be gold. So your conversations have to be boom, 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 and you get really good at, like, all right, who am I talking to? When am I talking to? What are we doing? And how am I going to do this? Boom, next. And if you can do that and prioritize that time, dude, turn that negative into like a positive for you. Like, that's what I would do. But I would partner with people. You feel me? God, I'm fucking fired up on this call.
Me too.
I'm ready to run through a fucking wall. This is crazy. I turned on my AC this whole time.
I'm low key shaky right now, man.
Yeah, Erwin, it's going to be so much easier to get momentum in the door if you can just focus on what you want to be good at, which is the acquisitions, and fucking have someone else take care. And because listen, I have people JV deals with me all the time, and I can say for fucking sure they are making more money most of the time splitting the deal with Uncle G, not Grant Cardone, than they would have on their own because they didn't have the buyer's list and they didn't have the negotiating systems, right? So I had a guy one time, this was this year, brought me a deal. He was going to get like 20. Yeah, he was going to make 20K wholesaling. He's like, Greg, can you sell this for me? I'll split it with you. 60G deal, cut 30 each. He made more money, less work, didn't have to fuck around, sent him a wire for 30 grand. He's like, holy fuck. So, I mean, when you work with the right people, dude,
all day,
it makes your life so much easier.
All day. I bought a deal from a young guy on Instagram. He hit me up. This was like 2 months ago. It was prime time Miami. And he's like, hey man, I got this deal. If I could get, 420 for it, I'd be happy. And I actually just closed on the rehab side and I flipped it for 600. Granted, I had to put like 70 grand into it, but kid made freaking good money, bro.
Good for him. Fucking A.
I mean, why not?
Love it. Yeah. Erwin, did that help you out, bro?
Yeah, it did. I appreciate it, guys. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, bro.
Willie, if you could send me those guys from LA, I definitely will connect with them too. So, and Greg, dude, you're down for all of San Diego for me. I market
anything in Diego, bro. Hit me up.
Yeah, I got you, man.
Cool, bro. Thanks. Josh, what's cracking, bro? How you doing?
What's going on, bro? Finally, man. I'm in the Tri-County. I sent Will some deals, man, but I guess it hasn't made sense. It hasn't made sense yet. Listen, man, I hear about I hear about the pivot and stuff like that. I just joined Brewer's thing that he has going on with the whole Novation
course.
Yeah, exactly. I joined it with Oscar. He was on earlier, and one of our buddies. He's a realtor, Chris. My question is, are you guys pulling data any specific way now that you're looking to novate majority of the deals? I know you're not looking to novate them, but it's like a big option now compared to back in the day, wholesaling right away. Now that your eyes are open to novating deals, are you guys pulling data any specific different way, or is it the same type of data you guys have been pulling all this time?
Same data, bro.
No, same data. The only thing I changed in my data, which was about, I don't know, maybe a year ago when the market was still like booming, I dropped the percentage of equity that I was doing because I realized like 30% and up is usually where we were pulling at, but 30% and up was an old metric for a market that had appreciated so fast. So I dropped it to like 15% because we felt like 15 probably meant 30. And we just capitalized a lot more people in that
squeezed out the juice.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. But I don't treat I don't treat like novations that way or anything that way, by the way, fix and flip, whatever. I made a video about this. I call them buckets, right? Where like I do the marketing. Yes, of course, we're systematic. We do the marketing a certain kind of way. We buy certain kind of lists, right? All that stuff. And there's certain criteria. I don't just blanket the whole state of Florida, but I let the leads come into the funnel, and then where they fall is where they're going to go for me. And then I kind of just let my team view them, and I review them, I guess you would say, and I make my options. So I'm like, all right, well that might be a buy and hold, or hey, that might be a bird. Even though birds suck right now because of interest rates, but that might be a bird. Hey, that's a fix and flip, or hey, that's a wholesale, right? So it's kind of like that's how I do it. So I let the lead come in, and then I see how we can best structure that deal. I don't limit myself on I don't like pigeonhole myself, because sometimes you might be like, oh man, I'm gonna look for novations, but dude, what if it was a good cash buyer? Or what if it was a good retail listing? Or what if it was a good owner finance? Or what if it was a good subject to? Or what if it was a good wholesale, right? You never know. So I just take it as it comes and then just design it. I kind of like a tailor, right? Like a clothing tailor. And I just tailor the suit to that. That's what I do.
So you
100%.
you pull the same type of data, and you just have your buckets open. Whatever data comes in, depending on the bucket you want to throw it in, or the bucket that it deserves to be in, is where it goes.
Yeah, bro. Look, think of it this way, right? If you understand, think of it like a car dealership, right? You walk into a car dealership. So if I'm the car dealership owner, right? I got cars. I know people want cars. So we sell cars, right? So I'm not going to specifically, level out one person, whatever. Some days I know Joe's going to walk in and buy a car from me. John's going to walk in and sell a car, which I'm then going to resell. You get what I mean? Another person's going to walk in, they're not going to do shit, but they might do something 2-3 months down the road. So you get what I mean? I kind of, or they might buy a warranty from me, right? It's not where I make most money, but I'm making some revenue. So it's just kind of like I let them come to the machine. Machine tells me what's what, and then I decide what we want to do with it, based on liquidity, based on the market, based on what I want to do at that time, how I want to design it, right? How liquid am I? Am I tapped out? Am I like, damn, bro, I'm in 11 projects right now. I'm really not feeling going on a 12 unless it's a banger, right? And I just kind of treat it that way, and that's it. Or I might JV with somebody. I might call one of my buddies like Greg or somebody, and I might be like, yo, man, I got a lot of projects going on. You want to take this off of me, or you want to buy it, you renovate it, and we'll partner up. You give me 30-40% at the end. Cool. I'll give you the lead. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
it's just
that's the way to
I
go.
pivoted to one of my hard money lenders. I'm just looking for solutions, and I'm looking to just move the needle. That's it. I'm moving the ball down the field. That's all I'm doing.
Love it. Yeah. So Josh, yeah, there's no like novation list, man. It's like the main thing is just whatever bucket that lead fits is what you want to execute. You don't need a novation list. There's no I mean, you could probably pull a subject to list. I mean, you could pull people who have, in default and they've bought their house, within the last 10 years. But at the end of the day, you just look at every deal. Like, how do I solve this person's problem? Right. Was that it's a novation hammer, cash hammer, terms hammer, sub 2 hammer, land subdivision hammer. Oh, let me actually, so that's the point we wanted to make. Let me end the call on this note. So here's a little takeaway for everyone. So a lot of people, I'm telling about this land deal again. This seller who is selling me this piece of land, we have the contract now. We got the contract going out to the buyer. This freaking property got appraised for $550, I believe. I'm buying it for $560, and I'm wholesaling it for $630. Right. So if I had my brain calculated with oh, I need to offer this guy 70 cents on the dollar, I would not have gotten that deal. This is a sophisticated attorney based out of New York City. So the point I'm trying to make is if you know your little market, and that's why we were telling Solomon to go deep as a sheep, because if you know your market super fucking well and you know what shit trades for, especially in New York or South Florida, you can buy property sometimes at market value if you can fucking knock them down and make huge, huge, huge wholesale deals out of literally thin air. You know what I'm saying? Well, I'm sure you've done this down in South Florida with land and lot. Fucking crazy.
I did one a few months ago that the seller didn't know they had 2 platted lots.
Yeah, bro, it's fucking crazy.
Folio. I split the lots and I was able to sell one for $250,000 and the house for $600,000. I bought it from them
hanging,
at
baby.
710. So,
dude,
it was paperwork, bro. And honestly, here's the solid part. It took me a grand total of 3 hours of work with my land use attorney and $2,100 to generate an extra $200. I mean, you talk about the right network, right way to do things, and knowing when and where. That's it. And everybody passed on that deal. That deal was 5715 Taft Street. For those of you that are in South Florida, that was in Hollywood. So you can fact check me if you want. But that's a fact, dude. Everyone had fucking passed on that. It was crazy because nobody saw that it was 2 platted lots. Yeah. They were already entitled. It was zoned for 10 townhomes. 10.
Crazy, bro.
10.
It's fucking crazy, man.
And there was one single family on it. One.
Dude.
There was 10 townhomes.
It's crazy. I literally made one call to the building department on this deal in Rye. I was like, hey, what can I build on this? What's the lot size? Okay, what's the zoning requirements? Okay, cool. Hey, seller, I'll offer you five. No, we offered him 6, then we went down to 560. Hey, call. And here's another thing. One more thing. So how did we sell that deal? I'm not a developer. I go on the MLS. And obviously, listen, I've been doing this for a while, but I go on the MLS, all the new construction that's sold, instead of jerking around and skip tracing LLCs and burying my head in the sand like an ostrich, I'm like, Who's the broker who sold all these fucking properties? Oh, this guy, Joe. Hey, Joe, my name is Greg. I got this property, looking to sell it for this price. Do you know a buyer who would buy this? I'll pay you a commission. You know what Joe does? He goes right to bat for us, brings us a buyer in 2 freaking days. So it's like, you just got to be able to use data, know the market, and be consistent and persistent. And you'll fucking crush it.
And right now, as this market tightens up and money is going to get sucked out of this market, I want everybody to understand this. Money is getting sucked out of this market right now, not just through interest rates and all that. The last 2 years, all these realtors, brokers, developers, this, that, people that were not accustomed to making that much money, most of their income's gone. So now if you have an opportunity, go leverage those people. They're not doing anything. Most of those people aren't doing anything. So either you can hire them, or you can you could use them for hire or bring them onto your team. And those are guys and girls that can bring a buyer for you because they got nothing going on. Because 2 years of craziness has just fizzled, and now it's all quiet time. So if you're like a deal engineer and you know how to find deals, dude, in any economy, especially in a down economy, baby,
the world's your oyster, bro.
Yeah, man. So just leverage that shit.
Fuck yeah. Guys, I hope you all got value today. If you did, share this on social media. Stay in touch with us. We're going to do these more often. Appreciate your guys' time. And Willie, my man, great freaking job, bro. I love this.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate it, man.
All right, guys. Later.
Be safe.
Thanks.